Petrified National Forest Park is an American national park in Navajo and Apache counties in northeastern Arizona. Named for its large deposits of petrified wood, the park covers about 346 square miles, encompassing semi-desert shrub, steppe, as well as highly eroded and colorful badlands. The park's headquarters is about 26 miles east of Holbrook, along Interstate 40, which parallels the BNSF railways, southern Transcon, the Puerco River, and historic US Route 66, all crossing the park roughly east-west. The site, the northern part of which extends into the Painted Desert, was declared a national monument in 1906 and a national park in 1962. The park received 644,922 recreational visitors in 2018. Petrified Forest is known for its fossils, especially fallen trees that lived in the late Triassic epoch, about 225 million years ago. The sediments containing these fossil logs are part of the widespread and colorful Chinle Formation, from which the Painted Desert gets its name. Beginning about 60 million years ago, the Colorado Plateau, of which the park is part, was pushed upward by tectonic forces and exposed to increased erosion. All of the park's rock layers above the Chinle, except geologically recent ones found in parts of the park, have been removed by wind and water. In addition to petrified logs, fossils found in the park have included late Triassic ferns, cycads, ginkgos, and many other plants, as well as fauna, including giant reptiles called phytosaurs, large amphibians, and early dinosaurs. Paleontologists have been unearthing and studying the park's fossils since the early 20th century. park's earliest human inhabitants arrived at least 8,000 years ago. By about 2,000 years ago, they were growing corn in the area and shortly thereafter building pit houses in what would become the park. Later inhabitants built above-ground dwellings called pueblos. Although changing climate caused the last of the park's pueblos to be abandoned by about 1400 CE, more than 600 archaeological sites, including petrographs, have been discovered in the park. In the 16th century, Spanish explorers visited the area, and by the mid-19th century, a U.S. team had surveyed an east-west route through the area where the park is now located and noted the petrified wood. Later, roads and a railway followed similar routes and gave rise to tourism, and before the park was protected to a large-scale removal of fossils, theft of petrified wood remains a problem in the 21st century. Petrified National Park is known for its fossils, especially of fallen trees that lived in the late Triassic epoch of the Mesozoic era, about 225 million years ago. During this period, the region that is now the park was near the equator and the southwestern edge of the supercontinent Pangaea, and its climate was humid and subtropical. What later became northeastern Arizona was a low plain flanked by mountains to the south and southwest and a sea to the west. Streams flowing across the plain from the highlands deposited inorganic sediment and organic matter, including trees as well as other plants and animals that had entered or fallen into the water. Although most organic matter decays rapidly or is eaten by other organisms, some is buried so quickly that it remains intact and may become fossil. Within the park, the sediments containing the fossil logs for which the park is named are part of the Chinle Formation. Colorful Chinle, which appears on the surface in many parts of the southwestern United States, and from which the Painted Desert gets its name, is up to 800 feet thick in the park. It consists of a variety of sedimentary rocks, including the beds of soft, fine-grained mudstone, siltstone, and claystone, much of which is bentonite, as well as harder sandstone and conglomerate, and limestone. Exposed to wind and water, the Chinle usually erodes differentially into badlands made up of cliffs, gullies, mesas, buttes, and rounded hills. Its bentonite clay, which swells when wet and shrinks while drying, causes surface movement and cracking that discourages plant growth. Lack of plant cover make the Chinle especially susceptible to weathering. About 60 million years ago, tectonic movements of the Earth's crust began to uplift the Colorado Plateau, of which the Pentide Desert is part. Eventually, parts of the plateau rose to 10,000 feet above sea level. This warping of the Earth's surface led to the gradual and continuing destruction of the plateau by erosion, an unconformity which is a break in the rock record of about 200 million years occur within the park, where erosion has removed the rock layers above the Chinle except geologically recent ones. The Vida Hochi Formation, laid down only 4 to 8 million years ago, rests directly atop the Chinle, and rocks laid down in the Jurassic, Cretaceous, and much of the Tertiary are absent. During the late Triassic, down trees accumulating in river channels in what became the park were buried periodically by sediment containing volcanic ash. Groundwater dissolved silica, which is a silicon dioxide, from the ash and carried it into the logs, where it formed quartz crystals that gradually replaced the organic matter. Traces of iron oxide and other substances combined with the silica to create buried colors in the petrified wood. In Petrified Forest National Park, most of the logs in the park retain their original external form during petrification, but lost their internal structure. However, a small fraction of the logs in most of the park's petrified animal bones have cells in other species that are mineral filled but still retain much of their original organic structure. With this permineralized fossil, it is possible to study the cellular makeup of the original organism with the aid of microscope. Other organic matter, typically leaves, seeds, pine cones, pollen grains, spores, small stems, and fish, insect, and animal remains have been preserved in the park as compression fossils, flattened by the weight of the sediments above until only a thin film remains on the rock. Much of the park's petrified wood is from Araucaria Ceylon arizonicum, an extinct conifer tree, while some found in the northern part of the park is from Woodworthia arizonica and Scylladeria adamanica trees. At least 9 species of fossil trees from the park have been identified. All are extinct. The park has many other kinds of fossils besides trees. The Chinle, considered to be one of the richest late Triassic fossil plant deposits in the world, contains more than 200 fossils plant taxa. Plant groups represented in the park include lycophytes, ferns, cycads, conifers, ginkgos, as well as unclassified forms. The park has also produced many fossil vertebrates, including giant crocodile-like reptiles called phytosaurs, large salamander-like amphibians called koskynodon, and early dinosaurs. Fossils invertebrates include freshwater snails and clams. I pause here. I hope you enjoy our ride. Don't forget to watch my next episode and please hit the red subscribe button below for it means so much for me. Until next time, thank you so much.